An eventful day came to a close as the sun descended below the Salem skyline, bathing the town in a gentle glow that signaled the conclusion of the day. The sharp features of Javier "Javi" Hernandez were set in a contemplative expression as he walked the living room at the Hernandez residence. It had been a while since he had been back in Salem, and he was eager to get back in touch with his sister, Gabby, and to rebuild old family relationships. On the other hand, the more time he spent with her, the more he understood that she was experiencing some kind of distress, something that she was not expressing. Throughout her life, Gabby has never been the type to flaunt her emotions. After everything that she had gone through, she could not allow someone to simply see her flaws. Javi, on the other hand, was able to pick up on her subtle cues, such as the way she fidgeted with her jewelry, the unexpected silences that occurred whenever a particular name was spoken, and the affectionate glances that she believed no one observed. That individual's name is J.J. Devereaux. A dinner with complete silence. That evening, Gaby busied herself in the kitchen, preparing a straightforward meal for the family. Despite the fact that she moved with the same efficiency as she always does, Javi noted that her motions were slightly hurried, as if she was attempting to divert her attention away from something or someone to distract herself. Javi made the statement while leaning against the doorway with his arms crossed. "You've been particularly quiet today," he said. Gabby cast a fleeting glance in his direction before returning her focus to the flames on the burner. "Only busy, that's all," she said, having a lot of thoughts about JJ. While Gabby was turning around, her eyes were wide open, and the spoon that she was holding clattered against the pot. "What is it?" "To not." Who would say something like that? Javi gave a sly grin before removing his hand from the doorframe and entering the kitchen. "Oh, Gabby, get moving. I know you better than anyone else does. Every time his name is spoken, you get this look on your face, as if you are trying to maintain your composure, but are unable to stop yourself from smiling." With a grunt, Gabby turned her attention back to the stove and stirred the sauce with a little bit more power than was strictly required. "Javi, you are making stuff up in your head. JJ and I are nothing more than friends." Javi arched his brow in surprise. "Are we just friends? To what extent does this explain why you lit up like a Christmas tree when he texted you the other day?" During the interval, Gaby's shoulders became tense. She detested the fact that her brother could be so insightful. A protective muttering sprang from her mouth. "I didn't light up." The tone of Javi's voice was oozing with sarcasm as he stated, "Sure, you didn't." A concern for one's brother. Javi made the decision to put in a little bit more effort as they were sitting down to eat. "Listen, Gabby, I'm not trying to become involved in your affairs in any way. In the event that there is something going on between you and JJ, it would be beneficial for you to discuss it, either with him or at least with me." "There's nothing to talk about," Gaby replied as she stabbed at her salad with an excessive amount of force. "The history between JJ and I is a convoluted one. There is a lot that we have been through, but it does not mean that. It is not a sign that anything is taking place at this time." Javi responded by saying, "That does not mean that it is not still there." Gabby let out a sigh as she finally looked at her brother and laid her fork down by her side. "What is it about this that you care so much about?" "I care about you," Javi stated in a straightforward manner. "In addition, I do not want you to disregard your emotions or allow yourself to be harmed because you are too afraid to say what it is that you desire." His statements touched a nerve, and for a little while, Gabby was unable to respond to them. What if scenarios and recollections? Gabby sat in the living room by herself later that evening, her thoughts wandering to JJ while she entertained herself. Their relationship had always been difficult, with highs and lows throughout its entirety, as well as moments of unquestionable closeness as well. Both of them had relied on one another at some of the most difficult moments in their life, and despite the fact that their romantic relationship had come to an end, their connection had never completely been severed. In spite of Gabby's best efforts to repress them, those long-forgotten emotions had recently begun to make their way back towards the surface. It was all coming back to her, including JG's carefree smile, his protective personality, and the way he could make her laugh even on the days when she was feeling the worst. On the other hand, whenever she considered moving forward, thoughts of uncertainty crept into her head. After everything that they had been through, was it possible for them to actually make it work? What's more significant is whether or not JG had the same sentiments. Having a conversation late at night. After Javi had finished his errands, he went to the living room and discovered that she was still seated there. As he sat down next to her, his expression became more subdued than prior to. "Are you sure that you haven't been thinking about him just now?" he inquired in a soft voice. This time, Gabby did not try to deny whatever it was. "It's possible," she said. While reclining back on the couch, Javi gave a slight nod. "To tell you the truth, Gabby, there is absolutely no guilt in wishing to be happy. According to what I can tell, JJ is the one who brings you joy. Then, what is it that is preventing you from moving forward?" Gabby was seen looking at her hands as she paused. "It's not as easy as you expect, Javi. We have caused each other pain in the past, and I am not sure whether I am willing to put myself in that position once more. Is it possible that things won't work out? But what if I end up losing him entirely?" In an effort to reassure her, Javi placed a hand on her shoulder. "Or what if it does turn out to be successful? What if you, in the end, discover something that is genuine and something that is worth fighting for? Gabby, yes, life is full of hazards, but sometimes the risk that is the most significant is not taking any chances at all." As his words lingered in the atmosphere, Gabby had a spark of hope for the first time in what seemed like weeks. The first step towards the future. In the morning of the following day, Gabby was standing outside of the Brady pub, her heart pounding. Gigi had sent her a text message asking whether she interested in having breakfast together, and she had made the decision to follow Javi's recommendation. In the moment that Gigi entered the room, his smile immediately put her at ease. His words came out as he sat opposite Gabby and said, "Hey, Gabby, are you sure? When you were writing, you gave off an air of seriousness." Gabby took a deep breath as she made uneasy movements with her fingers as she played with the edge of the menu. "Yeah, I'm doing fine. It's simply that I wanted to have a conversation with you about something." The expression on JG's face then changed to one of concern. What exactly is going on? Gabby started off by saying, "I've been thinking a lot about us," and despite the fluttering in her chest, she maintained a calm voice. "This is about everything that we have been through and where we are at the moment. And I suppose that's all I need to know. Do you ever give any thought to the possibilities that could have been?" JG appeared to be taken aback, but as he began to lean forward, his expression changed. "Gabby, I give it a lot of thought on a regular basis. It is true that I have never ceased caring about you, and if I am being completely honest, a portion of me has always pondered whether or not we may have another opportunity." As Gabby's heart began to pound in her chest, she experienced a shortness of breath. "Seriously?" JJ smiled warmly and sincerely as he nodded his head. "Not at all. But if we are going to do something, I want to make sure that we do it well. There will be no more escaping when things become difficult. We take things slowly. We discuss them before making a decision, and we come to a conclusion together." The weight that had been pressing down on Gabby's chest came off for the first time in what seemed like an eternity. She flashed a grin, her chest expanding with a feeling that was equal parts relief and anticipation. "That sounds good to me, JJ. That would be very appealing to me. We are starting over." Javi watched from a distance as they left the pub together. A grin of contentment appeared on his face as he watches them go. Despite the fact that he was certain that Gaby and JJ will have difficulties in the future, he was content with the fact that his sister was taking a chance on love for the time being. Javi believed that there were times when the most beneficial thing that one could do for someone they loved about was to assist them in seeing something that they were unable to notice for themselves. For Gaby, this was the moment when she realized that JJ was still the one who had a special place in her heart. There was a palpable sense of festive spirit throughout the expansive halls of the Kyriakis estate, which were decked out with glimmering lights, garlands, and a huge Christmas tree that shone brightly in the middle of the living room. Maggie Kyriakis strolled through the home with the same grace that she always does, her red sweater perfectly complementing the festivities that were going on inside. When she was hosting family and friends and making sure that every aspect of the celebration was perfect, she showed that she was in her element. However, even in the midst of the chaos that the holiday season brings, Maggie's keen eyes were able to notice everything. When she saw her granddaughter Holly Jonas sitting on the couch with a dreamy look on her face while staring at her phone, she knew that something was wrong. As Maggie made her way over to the young person, she placed her tray of freshly baked cookies on the ground and left it there. Maggie came up and sat down next to Holly, saying, "Holly, sweetheart," with a kind tone in her voice. "For the past few hours, you have been riveted to that phone. Just what is it that has you so enthralled?" The blush spread across Holly's face as she hastily locked her phone and tucked it next to her. "Oh, Grandma, there is nothing. We are simply conversing with our buddies." Maggie lifted her eyebrow, displaying the wise grandmother expression that has become her trademark. "Are you friends? Is there a certain friend in particular?" Holly paused for a moment before heaving a sigh, fully comprehending that there was no sense in concealing anything from Maggie. "The name is Tate. As of late, we have been having a lot of conversations, and I'm not sure, Grandma. I believe that I take a liking to him. This is the bond." In the middle between Holly and Tate, Holly Black and Tate Black had spent their whole lives in Salem, with their lives being interwoven by the histories of their parents. Holly and Tate had developed a connection that grew stronger as they grew older. This was possibly due to the fact that Brady and Nichols' troubled histories frequently brought their families together. Now that they were adolescents, they had begun to view each other in a different light, and their growing romance had become a topic of conversation that their families discussed on a significant amount of occasions. Holly proceeded by saying, "He is so sweet, Grandma," with a tone of excitement conveying her excitement. "He's hilarious, he's nice, and he pays a lot of attention to what I ask him. It's almost as if we have a different understanding of each other than anyone else has." Maggie beamed. Her heart swelled with joy as she observed Holly's enthusiasm. However, despite the fact that she cherished the joy that her granddaughter experienced, she was unable to ignore the worries that came with the love that was so young. "Just a friendly reminder." Maggie spoke to Holly in a friendly manner and remarked, "I can see how much you care about Tate. In addition, based on what I've observed, he is an outstanding young man. On the other hand, I want you to keep in mind something very important. Relationships, particularly at your age, can be very tricky. Even if it is simple to be carried away by the enthusiasm, it is equally as vital to do things at a leisurely pace." Holly made a tiny grimace and cocked her head to the side. "Slow. What are you trying to say, Grandma? We're simply hanging out and having a conversation. There is no way that we are going to be married or anything like that." Maggie laughed as she put a soothing hand on Holly's knee and offered her support. "My dear, I am aware of that. In spite of this, feelings have a tendency to develop rapidly, sometimes even more rapidly than we anticipate. When something like this occurs, it is simple to lose sight of what is most beneficial for you as a unique individual. Spending time together means getting to know each other better, gaining an understanding of what it is that you both desire, and ensuring that you are prepared for whatever challenges lie ahead. The benefits of having experience. Holly lowered her gaze slightly as she fiddled with the hem of her jumper with her fingers. On the other hand, Grandma, how can I tell if I am prepared? I mean, when I'm with Tate, we have a good vibe going on. Isn't that the most important thing? The expression on Maggie's face became more reserved, and the tone of her words became more introspective. Yes, it is a significant portion of it. However, love, whether it is a love that arises in childhood or one that endures throughout one's entire life, takes more than just sensations. It requires patience, communication, and trust in one another. Take my word for it. I've discovered it via my own personal interactions. Holly's interest was piqued by this. Are you referring to Grandpa Victor then? Maggie gave a slight nod. There were a number of obstacles that Victor and I had to overcome. In addition to being obstinate and unyielding in his beliefs, he occasionally made choices that I did not agree with. As a result of our efforts to comprehend one another, we were able to acquire the skills necessary to overcome those differences. And prior to my relationship with Victor, I had other relationships in my life, some of which taught me valuable lessons about the dangers of jumping into things too quickly. Holly moved closer, demonstrating her obvious curiosity. In what manner are the lessons? Maggie paused for a few minutes before smiling with a longing expression. In the past, when I was younger, I frequently followed my emotions without giving it the opportunity to think things out. It was not always simple, and there were occasions when I received injuries as a result of my lack of readiness for what I was about to embark upon. Because of this, I want you to take your time with Tate so that you can be sure that your feelings are genuine and that you and Tate are both communicating well. A brief period of introspection. Holly took in the words of her grandmother, her former joy being subdued by a newly discovered feeling of mindfulness. To be honest, I don't think I've ever truly considered it that way. I mean, I am aware that I have feelings for Tate, but it's possible that I don't know everything there is to know about him just yet. A grin appeared on Maggie's face as she put her arm around Holly's shoulders. And that is just stuck with me, my darling. In any kind of relationship, one of the most enjoyable aspects is getting to know the other person. It is not a race, but rather a voyage. There is no reason to be in a hurry. With the knowledge that her grandma had imparted to her, Holly snuggled into Maggie's hug and felt comfortable. Grandma, I am grateful. I suppose it was just what I needed to hear. A reminder of the holidays. As the conversation came to a close, Maggie made a gesture in the direction of the Christmas tree. She asked, "Do you see that ornament over there?" pointing to a beautiful porcelain heart that was hanging close to the middle of the tree. "Do you see that ornament?" Holly gave a slight nod. "You're right, it's exquisite." Who or what was the origin of it? The beauty of Maggie's smile grew. During our first Christmas together as a married couple, Victor presented it to me as a gift. He informed me that it was a symbol of our love, which was frail yet enduring. In this way, it serves as a reminder that love is something that is developed gradually, with care and intention. In the same way that you should guard that ornament, you should also guard this. Holly's expression had a contemplative expression as she gazed at the decoration for a brief period. I believe that I have got it now. I am not required to immediately reach a conclusion with Tate over anything. Let's take things at our own pace and see where they go from here. Maggie radiated and her heart swelled with pride as she smiled. I couldn't agree with you more, my sweetness. In addition, regardless of what occurs, you can rest assured that your family will always be there to support you. Taking steps forward. In the later hours of that day, when the Kyriakis household had finally reached a state of tranquility, Holly found herself ruminating over the recent talk she had with Maggie. Tate received a brief note from her, in which she expressed her gratitude for their connection and expressed her eagerness to spend further time with him throughout the holiday season. Maggie stood in the doorway and watched her granddaughter as she exhibited a newly discovered sense of self-assurance and maturity. Her heart was filled with enthusiasm. She was aware that Holly would have to deal with additional difficulties in the future, but for the time being, she was satisfied with the knowledge that she had assisted Holly in navigating the ideal path. Maggie experienced an overwhelming feeling of thankfulness as she basked in the glory of the Christmas lights. She was thankful for her family, for the life lessons she had acquired over the years, and for the opportunity to pass on those life teachings to the next generation.